Hello and welcome to HBM's Crypto Corner for Wednesday, January 29th, 2025. We have quite a few things to talk about, so let's get started. First off, I want to point out the Bigfoot Times newsletter website, bigfoottimes.net, which has quite a bit of material on it, including the Bigfoot books list. There's also the index of Bigfoot Times. Which I've pointed out in the past. Goes from January 98 all the way to January 2025. You can also subscribe to the newsletter. You have to go to this page, however. And the price, the cost is $23.75 a year. It was $22.75. It's gone up. You can also still get the Patterson-Gimlin film site 1968 to 2012 postcard. You can still get it. I have it myself, and I'm glad I do. I'm surprised that Daniel doesn't have a link to order his new book, Bigfoot at Bluff Creek. I think you have to contact him through his email, which is Perez952@sbcglobal.net. Again, that's Perez952@sbcglobal.net. I think you have to contact him through that email to get a copy of the upcoming Bigfoot at Bluff Creek. Now, for those who want to get in on the ground floor of the limited edition, that will be made available next Saturday morning at 2:01 a.m. Central Time, 12:01 a.m. Pacific. You just send an email to Daniel Perez saying that you would like to get in on the ground floor of a copy of the limited edition of Bigfoot at Bluff Creek. That's going to be a week from now. So that's pretty exciting, and I'm looking forward to that. But just go to bigfoottimes.net or search for Bigfoot Times on your favorite search engine. So that's a good thing. And I'm glad to be able to promote Daniel's website and blog. Not really much of a blog, it's more of a website. So check it out, guys. It's good stuff. Now here's something interesting. Unidentified primate's toe and Mount Everest barefoot mystery, real or fake? Well, if it was real, they wouldn't be handling it with their bare hands. It's fake. Supposedly, this big toe was found in a bear trap in the forest surrounding Tacoma, Washington back in 1923. The toe, which belonged to a huge unknown primate, has been a subject of debate and intrigue for many years. You can actually get the daggum toe online. You get copies of the toe. It's not real, guys. Come on. Are they ribbing us with this? It's not a real Bigfoot toe. It's not. It's just not. I'm just going to point it out and tell it like it is. It's not a real Bigfoot toe. It's not. So stop deluding yourself into believing, oh, it could be real. No, it's not real. Period. End of discussion. Loch Ness Monster breakthrough as mystery 20-foot-long creature pictured moving in water. Is this the actual picture? Looks like there's not much there, doesn't it? Grainy footage picked up by a webcam on the shore of Loch Ness in Scotland appears to show a 20-foot object moving through the water, leading some to speculate that it could be the loch's notorious monster. Loch Ness Monster enthusiasts have been sent into a frenzy after a mysterious object was spotted in the loch. Images of the bizarre object were captured by a 24/7 webcam set up at the southeastern end of Loch Ness. It was seen heading towards Cherry Island, a man-made outpost on the loch, last Sunday. The snaps were shared to the Loch Ness Exploration Group on Facebook. The post explained the object, whatever it was, captured on the Shoreland Lodge's webcam. The object was moving close to shore towards Cherry Island direction before turning and heading further out into the loch before disappearing out of sight. The post added that the man who submitted the images has been visiting Loch Ness since the 1980s. He is said to be familiar with natural phenomena, the environment, and the wildlife around the loch, and was open to suggestions as to what the images might show. Commenting on the post, one Facebook user said, "Close to shore, but it looks pretty big. 20 feet, maybe?" Another said, "After all these years, 2025 still lurking there." And a third said, "Is this a serious sighting or are we looking at manipulated pictures? Looks amazing if real." Yet not everyone was convinced by the images, with some users offering what might be considered more realistic explanations. One local said the recent storms have brought hundreds of big chunks of wood to the loch. "I have seen trees wash up on the shore and foyers this week. Some of the wood in the water is pretty large. Could it be this?" I mean, it could very well be just a piece of wood. Most likely it's not the Loch Ness Monster. It may be moving, but that doesn't mean anything. Objects in water can move with the tide. Even in a lake. So this really isn't proof of anything other than it's possibly a piece of wood, just a piece of wood drifting around in the lake, in the loch. So most likely that's what it is. That seems to be a more plausible explanation. And perhaps the 20-foot estimation is an over-exaggeration or a misidentification. That's not to say there is not a Loch Ness Monster. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that there's a possibility that this could just be a piece of wood drifting around in the loch. So all I have to say is better luck next time. If there is a monster in Loch Ness, this geneticist will find it. Professor Neil Gemmell has a new plan to expand environmental DNA collection from the legendary lake. This is from January 10th. The platypus is a venomous mammal that lays eggs, can sense electricity, and has 10 sex chromosomes. The Tuatara is a reptile from a lineage that evolved before most dinosaurs and all lizards. The bluehead wrasse is a fish that can change sex. And Loch Ness Monster is, according to the most popular theory explaining over 1,000 sightings since the 19th century, a Jurassic-era plesiosaur, a living fossil whose descendants have somehow survived to the present day. What do these zoological oddities have in common? They've all been the research subjects of Professor Neil Gemmell of the University of Otago, New Zealand. Gemmell first trained as a geneticist in the 1990s. His interests have always leaned toward the stranger corners of the animal kingdom. So the recent development of environmental DNA, eDNA, collection piqued his interest. All creatures leave behind tiny scraps of DNA in their habitat by nature. Skin cells, hair, scales, blood, feces, and so on. By analyzing soil, water, and even air samples, genomic sequencing can reveal an accurate, detailed picture of all the species found there. A cryptid or undiscovered animal must leave behind molecular traces of its presence, same as any other organism. What better way to prove once and for all what may be lurking in Loch Ness? Sequence and ye shall find. In 2016, paleontologist Darren Nash had just published a book on cryptozoology, and Gemmell asked him on social media whether anyone had considered using eDNA sequencing to look for cryptids in Loch Ness. The discussion didn't get very far, and Gemmell soon forgot about it, until about 6 months later, when an article speculating on the feasibility of such a project was published, and soon Gemmell's phone and inbox were exploding with inquiries. It was so much attention for this idea, he says, more so than for any of the highfalutin science I'd ever done. I only opened my mouth and said, hey, we might be able to do this. I hadn't actually done anything yet. He leaned into the wave of public interest. Some of his colleagues, though, thought he might have lost his mind, but he says there was an opportunity to explain how you do an experiment, how you test for an idea. I thought we could take people on a journey of discovery, and my kids were pretty excited about it too. How eDNA identification works. When you find a random piece of DNA in a water, soil, or air sample, how can you tell what it came from, especially if that creature has never been sequenced before? By comparing the DNA to that of other species we have studied. For decades now, scientists have been sequencing organisms of every shape and size, and adding pieces of their genomes and, increasingly, their whole genome to vast reference libraries. DNA from an unknown animal would show varying similarities to known animals based on how closely they're related. So, I'm glad that someone is taking up the cause to try and get eDNA sequences of the possible Loch Ness Monster. Now, of course, it's been applied to Sasquatch as well here in the United States. A couple of examples were on a Travel Channel show, which I can't remember the name of right now. I think it was Seeking Monsters. And they conducted eDNA sequencing. And they found something unusual. They found some unusual DNA that they couldn't identify. There was eDNA collection done by Jerry Hine for Ancient Monster Quest. I'm not sure of the results of that. Possibly not very promising, but we keep trying. And one day someone will come across something they can't identify. Does that mean it's Sasquatch? Does that mean it's a Loch Ness Monster? Maybe, maybe not. But the search goes on. I want to highlight a podcast or a vodcast, video podcast from last Sunday with Nikki Colon on Sasquatch Secrets, where she discussed disaster Bigfoot, discussion with Brown Dwarf, aka Glenn Ross. And they talked about what do Sasquatch do when there is inclement weather, such as, let's say, hurricanes or forest fires like we have in California right now. What do these creatures do in the event of such things? Where do they go? Where do they retreat to? Makes one wonder what happens. And they went over some various theories that they each had. And some theories seem to be more plausible than others. But I think it's fascinating when you have a discussion going on between two researchers that can yield some interesting speculations. So I highly recommend everybody check this one out. And by the way, you should subscribe to Sasquatch Secrets. Nikki usually has pretty good guests and a really great show every Sunday. Sometimes on Saturdays, depending on whether she has to work or not. So I highly recommend everybody check this podcast out. It's good stuff. And here's something interesting. Yeti name for NHL team questionable following rejected trademark filing. Cryptozoology fans hoping that Utah's new NHL team would adopt the name Yeti may have had their hopes dashed due to some trademark trouble. Currently known as the Utah Hockey Club, the organization has been narrowing down potential monikers since moving to Salt Lake City from Arizona last year. A fan vote conducted in the spring resulted in 6 final contenders, with Yeti appearing to be the overwhelming favorite. Since the second poll closed in late June, the team has been conspicuously quiet about which moniker came out on top. While Yeti has largely been seen as something of a fait accompli, with players and even the general manager informally using the name, a recent trademark rejection has cast doubt upon that assumption. Well, now, I don't understand. I thought Yeti was a non-copyrighted name. Just as Bigfoot is a non-copyrighted name. Just as Sasquatch is a non-copyrighted name. What sort of trademark can you put on a mythical creature? Or an ostensibly mythical creature? Doesn't seem to make much sense. But what do I know? I don't know much about trademark filing at all. I might be breaking some trademarks right now. I might be breaking some copyrights by just talking about this. You never know. But somehow I doubt that any lawyers are going to come after me for that kind of stuff, because this is fair use. So who knows? I really can't give any answers because I don't have any answers on this issue. But hopefully they can get things straightened out. And maybe be able to call themselves Yeti after all. That'd be kind of cool, wouldn't it? Now here's something I found interesting. The truth behind Idaho's greatest mystery could be revealed soon. There have been several notable headlines the last few weeks, huh? So much has happened recently it can be hard to keep up with, or maybe we're just not reading through the lines at all. Sometimes we can hear something and take it at face value without realizing the implications of what we heard, such as the case with one of Idaho's biggest mysteries. Is President Trump the key to Idaho's biggest secret? In case you haven't heard, President Trump held a pre-inauguration rally in Washington, D.C. on Sunday before being sworn in yesterday. Actually Monday, but anyway. During that rally, President Trump reiterated his plans and vision for America to roaring cheers. Among the loudest pops he received from the crowd were Trump's plans to declassify documents he described as being overclassified. As a first step toward restoring transparency and accountability to government, we will also reverse the overclassification of government documents. And in the coming days, we're going to make public remaining records relating to the assassinations of President John F. Kennedy, his brother Robert Kennedy, as well as Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and other topics of great public interest. It's all going to be released, Uncle Sam. We know what you might be thinking. What does that have to do with Idaho? What documents will Trump declassify? The key takeaway here is other topics of great public interest, and for many that might mean the truth behind UFOs/UAPs or those pesky drones that played news headlines recently. What if President Trump unveiled the truth behind one of Idaho's biggest mysteries? Something so revealing that it completely changes what we know and understand about our wildlife. What if President Trump declassified documents revealing Bigfoot's existence in the Pacific Northwest? And look, we get it. It might be a reach for some, but after all we've witnessed up to this point, is it so crazy to think anymore? Why wouldn't it be possible for the government to know the truth about Bigfoot's existence? For all we know, Bigfoot could be Bigfoot Update 2025. For all we know, Bigfoot could be an alien humanoid from another planet that the government is protecting at all costs. And why wouldn't they? Are we really to accept life forms from other planets? President Trump is also the same person who got the ball rolling on Space Force. Why would he do that? Does he know something we don't? Only time will tell, but until then, buckle up and grab the popcorn. We could all be in for some major Bigfoot updates sooner rather than later. You can hear Trump tease the declassification at the 3.54 mark of the video below. So, could we possibly see some declassified documents regarding our favorite hairy hominoids? We've already seen at least one case of FBI declassifying some documents from the 70s of some supposed hair that was sent to them by the late Peter Byrne, which turned out to be deer hair. But that's about the only case I know of regarding Bigfoot and the government. This president could, regardless of what you think of him, he could blow the lid wide open on Sasquatch in the Pacific Northwest. It's entirely possible. We'll just have to buckle up and see what happens, I suppose. So hold on to your hats and wash those valuables. It's going to be a bumpy ride. Finally, college makes odd cryptid mascot swap. The rebranding of a community college pairing in Washington State saw the schools swap their mascot from Bigfoot to Sasquatch, following some rather odd market research feedback. The curious cryptid change is part of an expansive transformation of sister schools, Spokane Community College and Spokane Falls Community College, into the more cohesive identity of simply Spokane Colleges. Beyond the new name, the rebrand includes a fresh logo and school mascot. To that end, they announced that the schools would no longer be represented by beloved Pacific Northwest citizen Bigfoot. Cryptid fans should have no fear, however, as they will now be known as the Sasquatch instead. Interesting. So I think this was their old logo. I mean, this is their new logo. Well, my only question is, what's the difference? Is there really much of a difference? Bigfoot, Sasquatch, aren't they the same thing? I guess they felt that Sasquatch was more appealing than Bigfoot, so they changed it to Sasquatch. I don't know. I couldn't tell you what's in their heads, but it's an interesting development nonetheless. And that's going to do it for this week. We want to thank you very much for tuning in. You guys are the heart of the show. I always say that, but I always mean it. I'll continue as long as you guys want me to. And for 10 years now, I've been doing this. A decade. Of course, I go back to my old podcast days, back from 2008 to 2011. But that was in the audio realm. This is visual realm. So in the visual realm, I've been doing this for a decade. And I've enjoyed every second of it. And I've enjoyed every second of bringing you guys the latest cryptid information. And by the way, my show is engendering quite a bit of interesting comments. What I mean by that is there are people who come to me for cryptocurrency advice. Folks, this is not that kind of show. This is about cryptozoology, not cryptocurrency. Perhaps I should put a disclaimer before each show. This is not a cryptocurrency show. Please do not leave comments asking me about cryptocurrency. I know nothing about it. I don't know a bloody thing about cryptocurrency whatsoever. I'm the last person you want to ask for advice on that. Or maybe I should change the name of the show to Cryptid-Corner so there won't be any confusion. What do you guys think? You think I should change it to Cryptid-Corner or keep it Crypto-Corner? Because I've had this name since 2008. I don't think it would be a good idea for me to change it in midstream. For nearly 17 years, I've had the Crypto Corner. I think it would be ridiculous to change it just because some people get confused. I think this show is about cryptocurrency. But let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. And until next week, y'all be good or be good. This is HBM's Crypto Corner.